I think for a lot of people, if you could interview them post-pandemic and pre-pandemic, what you would find is that a lot of people, probably a shockingly high amount of people, acclimatized to a much higher kind of loneliness and isolation than they were experiencing before. I know I went through it, or it's just like, oh yeah, it was like, oh, I haven't seen a lot of people in like the last 5 days. Okay, I should probably go and chat with people and spend time with people. So I think, we know unequivocally, statistically, the research is in that, your close friends, the amount and the quality of close friends that you have in your life at 50 will predict your health and your happiness at 80, right? Like it's the biggest study that's ever been done. We know it. We know how important having close friends is.
Yeah.
And yet, 15% of men can't identify a close friend.
Yeah.
In America, right? And it's higher in other countries.
Right.
And I think that's only getting worse. And so I think that is a huge priority because that pushes us to get out of our fucking head, get out of like the ruminating about all the bullshit that's happening online and go and just hang out with some people for a little while, and release the stress valve for a little bit.
Like, it sounds like we're talking basics again. And I agree with you relationship wise, like just the necessity of it. It feels like what the pandemic may have done is taken things that were not just luxuries, but I philosophical ideas. Oh, you need to have a morning practice. Oh, you want to have a morning routine. Oh, it's good to get together with friends sometimes. And now in this post-pandemic dip, we're looking at these things and saying, this is how you survive. This is how you be okay in the world. It's not just great to have a buddy that you go have coffee with because it feels good. You go have coffee with a buddy because it's going to keep you fucking alive. And when men perhaps take that level of gravity of it or seriousness of it, then they'll take the action, right? I had a bunch of people reach out after I talked about that dinner, like, wow, I can't believe you invited 4 or 5 people over for dinner. And I was like, yeah, it was really fucking easy. It was 4 or 5 texts. Would you like to come to dinner on Friday night at 6 p.m.? Don't bring anything. By the way, we're going to answer one question. Yes. This is the beauty of dudes, right? I have heard from some from women, like, it's really hard to get women together. We're so jealous of the fact that we did a snowboarding trip for the nation, and it was like 1 email went out, and then a month later, 10 dudes showed up at a house, and that was it. And my partner's like, that is mind-boggling to me. We would have 700 emails and no one would ever get together. So guys, like, embrace this, that if you're the one sitting there saying like, well, I don't get invited to, I don't know what to do, I'm not sure who to hang out with, start asking. Like, be the guy that reaches out and is like, hey man, having a couple guys over for dinner Tuesday. You want to join? Hey, a bunch of us are going to go hiking on Wednesday. Want to join? Hey, a couple of us are going to go surfing on Friday. Want to join? Like, be that guy. If you're listening to this, like, be that guy, because you're going to start the ball rolling and you're going to give other guys permission to do the same, which taps back in again to what we really love, which is to be leaders or to be in a leadership position, to feel like we have impact, to feel like we're making a difference in the world.
I was going to say, and to not be ashamed of that. Like, I think what I've been somewhat surprised by is the amount of like pushback that I get online sometimes from individuals, from both men and women, about like us as men stepping into a more self-leadership oriented position. It is shocking to me how how quickly we have discarded the masculine and male orientation within our culture. Like, it really is surprising to me in some ways that, men have done some incredible things. We've done some terrible things. We've done some stupid things, like individually and collectively, but men have done some absolutely tremendous things.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating is the amount of people that are like, oh, that's misogynistic for wanting a man to like be a leader. And it's like, no, it's not. The majority of men want to be leaders. And so I think one of the other things is one of the things I've been talking with guys about is like, just don't engage in the bullshit gender wars. Just don't engage with it. Like, remember, like you texted me last night, I put a post up about how 42% of women are now the breadwinners, and that there's unexpected consequences of that on many different levels, in the sense that our relational roles within our societies have fundamentally changed. In 1960, it was 11% of households had women earning more than men, and now it's 42%, right? And maybe it's even higher now, who knows, because the poll was in like 2019. But so we have these massive shifts happening in our culture. We have, 66% of men between, 19 and 29, or 18 and 29, that are single, and 30% of them are sexless. And so we have this big tension that's starting to emerge between men and women in our culture.
For sure.
And I think part of that tension is that it is very easy to turn on the news, to go through social media, and to get conscripted into this stupid fucking gender war that is happening, that is just destroying dating, that's destroying the fun of flirting with people out in real life, that's destroying marriages and relationships, because people are entering into these relationships with this really deep mistrust, dislike of men or women or the masculine or the patriarchy or whatever it is, right? Fill in the blank.
Right.
And so I think one of the things that we have to start to move away from is, one, that we just all opt out from the gender war. And we say, I'm not going to participate in that anymore. I'm just not going to partake in it, because it's just nonsense and it's not helping anybody. And two, I think that we have to be able to hold two ideas simultaneously, meaning we have to be able to talk about the very real challenges that young men are facing right now in our society and our culture, without that meaning that you are somehow misogynistic, patriarchal, or anti-women. Right? We have to be able to say, listen, young men are struggling, and they're starting to struggle really bad.
Yeah.
And we need to talk about this, because this is a problem, rather than saying, oh, they're all lost and they're all narcissists and they're all incels and It's like, well, you're going to create more of them.
Yeah.
And so I think that those, I'm curious to get your 2 cents on that. No, as a little bit of like a soapbox, like, thank you for giving me my TED Talk moment.
Yeah, I've said for years, we threw the masculine baby out with the toxic bathwater. Like it's like all men bad. And now what do you know? We have a tail on that, or there's an after effect to that. And that is that men are struggling. That is that boys are struggling. And there's two sides to this, right? We talk directly to men and to boys and say, hey, do better. Here are some options. We feel for you. We get you. We understand you. And there's backlash on one end of like, fuck them. It's a patriarchy. You guys created the system. You should suffer in it. And then on behind the scenes, though, I get mothers, I get sisters, I get wives, I get all of these women saying, wow, this is my husband. This is my son. This is my brother. I don't know what to do with him. I genuinely care. I'm so tired of the cultural war on boys, or the cultural war between the sexes. I just threw something up last night saying, here's what I see when I open my social media feed. Female influencers making fun of men. Women celebrating them in the comments. Male influencers bashing women. Men celebrating them in the comments. No one really recognizing that this has an effect. Everybody who reads this, sees this, comments on it, likes it, put a fucking heart, put a fight, whatever, walks away like with a little bit of contamination on them. And they take that contamination into their relationships. They take that contamination into the next conversation they have with their wife, into the next conversation they have with their boyfriend or the guy that they're dating. And it creates real discord. It creates real disconnection. And the easiest way to not be contaminated is just to let it go. Don't comment on it. Don't watch it. Don't feed it. Don't give them the attention, right? If no one watched that shit, people would stop producing it. Mm-hmm. People would then stop the argument, which is not going anywhere. that it's your fault that we're not having sex. It's our fault that this is happening. It's your fault. It's men's fault. It's women's fault. Blah, blah, blah. It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And it's so tiresome. If it had any solution, I'd be like, do it. You know what? Keep it up. This is actually making change. It's not. It is actually, we now is the time more than ever for connection, for us to say, hey, I see you. You're a human. There's a lot of things on your life that I don't understand. There's a lot of things about my life you may not understand. Yet this is a basic building block of good mental health, of emotional health, of society, of peace, of the planet continuing, of the species continuing, of people having joy, of people having fun, of people celebrating their lives. Like the best things come from connection. So let's stop feeding this machine that I'm going to even say are self-perpetuating, or a lot of people are self-perpetuating because they are wounded, because they have been hurt by the opposite sex. And so it's easy to jump on that bandwagon. But you know what? It's fucking lazy. Right? I remember dating, I'm going to talk about this in the next day or two. I was dating a female influencer years ago. And she said, like, I don't feel comfortable putting a lot of the stuff out that I used to because of you. And I was like, well, why is it because of me? She's like, because I now see like the other side of the coin. I see that men are actually dealing with real shit. And so it doesn't make me feel as comfortable to make fun of them. And I was like, good. You know, don't do that. And by the way, it's fucking lazy. It would be so easy for us with our platforms to be like, we're just now going to make fun of women.
Oh, and we would probably get a ton of traction.
A ton of traction.
You know?